and it helps us see ourselves a little bit better.
Yeah, the real world Phil Connors just has a 1,000-yard stare for the rest of the time.
God, yeah.
Yeah, Groundhog Day. Okay, cool. Well, really quick, why don't we go around and talk about creative lessons that you're going to take away from Groundhog Day?
Sure. So I think something I realized during this discussion was I kept bringing up sci-fi. And I'm a big sci-fi guy. That's the genre I'm attracted to. It's the genre I want to write and direct in. And I think this movie shows me that you can have a very small, lower budget, like not even openly sci-fi premise and still explore philosophical themes I normally associate with sci-fi in a different package.
Yeah.
And like Groundhog Day is no less profound than, Ex Machina or like more heady sci-fi philosophical movies that I'm really attracted to and want to make things like. So it's a good kind of reminder. You can put these very deep ideas into really simple stories, and they can be maybe even more powerful because they kind of trick the audience into getting them. Because it's a comedy, it's a sweet Bill Murray movie, but you're learning these very profound things about existence. So that's my lesson, I think, is you can do big things and small things.
Trisha?
It's a lot of stuff that we've been talking about since we started getting into this, but I'm going to internalize the lesson of if you have a really big idea, apply it to a very small area. If you have a really big idea, apply it to one person, one town, and make it really accessible. And I think that I feel like it would have been really easy for somebody like Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis to get lost in the weeds of okay, so he's living forever. He actually is a god. Now he stops World War II, or what? Something huge, some huge application of this incredibly big idea. But they kept it grounded in such a way that it makes us all able to see ourselves in it. I think that's a really important lesson, especially for a high concept movie. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brian?
A lot of what I was going to say was pretty much covered in during the podcast, but I just kept thinking about the idea of forcing a protagonist into a premise, and I was thinking about Shaun of the Dead and The Death Wears Prada. Like, both those protagonists could have easily just decided not to go out into this world, exactly. So having someone just trapped in a situation they can't get out of is a lot more interesting, and the fact that it's so limiting, like he's in this little town where there's only so much to do, even for 1,000 years. I was playing around with an idea of a short film that sort of takes place in like a sort of like a magical-ish scenario where a character is like trapped in somewhere, and I'm playing with the idea of like he really wants this thing to not happen, but I was like, oh, well, what if it's forced? If that makes sense, because there's the difference of you need your protagonist to really want something, and that's why the audience cares, versus the protagonist literally cannot move forward unless this thing changes, period. You know, and that's not to say you should always do that over the other. There's value in both, but it's just sort of, it's interesting to play with those concepts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael?
Yeah, I think my lesson is kind of on what you were saying, Brian, and something we've talked about before is just I think my takeaway is that I'm always looking for examples of the kind of phrases that you encounter in screenwriting books, like you must force your protagonist to change. And it's like, okay, that's a great sentence. I know what all those words mean, but like, what does it really mean? What does it look like when that happens? And so I love it when I kind of realize that there are movies that are examples, super clear examples. It's like, I think Groundhog Day will forever now be my example. Like, what does it really look like to force your protagonist to change? Like, no choice but to change. And I think that's just super valuable.
With the added note of Phil doesn't know that that's how he gets out. Right. So there is value in the fact that he changes because he chooses to, not because he finds, because the old mentor says, well, we gotta do this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I fucking want
So
it.
what's everyone watching this week? Brian?
I have a couple little things I want to shout out real quickly before a bigger one.
Those last four, man. Oh my god, those last four were hard.